What do I think about the Shadow of Batgirl? Stick around and find out. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Brian, and today we're talking about one of the best damn comics that came out this year, even though it's only the end of February. It's just amazing. It's called The Shadow of Batgirl. Now, it's written by Sarah Kuhn, and the art is done by Nicole Goux. I believe it is Goux, not Goux, I'm pretty sure. Chris Peter is the colorist. Janice Chang with Seda Timofonte are the letterers. And Batgirl is based on characters created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. Good to see that Bill Finger's getting credit in this book. This is probably one of the coolest little stories ever because it stars Cassandra Cain, a character who recently surged into popularity with The Birds of Prey, which I reviewed last time. But the Cassandra Cain in that movie might as well have been a completely different character. She's not Cassandra Cain except in name. This right here is a really good example of Cassandra Cain's character. And actually, as a quick anecdote, I'll be right back. As promotional material for the Birds of Prey, all of the gals got special stories with the Birds of Prey splashed upon them. And this book right here in particular is a sort of six-parter talking about different stories for each of the characters. And one of Cassandra Cain's most iconic stories is actually in here as well. So the promotional material seems to know more about what kind of character Cassandra is than the movie does, which is a bit weird. But we're not talking about the movie. We aren't talking about the movie anymore. We're talking about Shadow of Batgirl. And I guess the cat wants to come up and say hello, so I'm just going to adjust the cat a little bit and scoot back. Come on up, cat. Get comfy, kitty, because we're going to be here for a little bit. There. So, in regards to Cassandra Cain in this book, I'm going to give a very brief synopsis about this. I'm not going to go too in-depth like I did with the Court of Owls, because I want you guys to fucking read this thing. But suffice it to say, the best way I could kind of describe this is like Cassandra Cain is Batgirl's origin story told in a different way. Like it mentions David Cain, his father, and her origins, and her trying to adapt to trying to be something that she wasn't basically raised to be, and getting involved with probably one of my favorite new characters in Jackie. She's the owner of a noodle shop, and she is just fantastic. I love this character. And meeting up with others like Eric. And what I find really very cool about this book is that it's just chock full of representation as well. Cass is Chinese, Jackie is Japanese. One of the other key characters in Eric is black and Asian, so he even mentions himself as Blasian a couple of times in the story. And I think that's just really nice. And it gets even cooler when you realize that in the intro for this book, which I am going to read, Sarah Kuhn understands how important representation is. And I shall read it to you in whole here, but I will also be having it plastered on the screen for you to read alongside. I've always thought of myself as a sidekick. Growing up as an Asian American geek girl in a very small town, that's all I thought I could be. I love reading about superheroes, fantastical beings committed to saving the world. But I never felt like I could be one, because I never saw anyone who looked like me centered in these stories. Cassandra Cain was one of the first Asian girl heroes I saw who actually got to be the hero. She wasn't a sidekick, she wasn't cannon fodder, she wasn't there to teach anyone a very important lesson about racism. She was freaking Batgirl, and she was biracial like me. I devoured every appearance. I obsessed over every story point. I adored the ways creators Kelly Puckett and Damian Scott envisioned her. I fell in love with Cassandra Cain, and she helped me see that a superhero could look like me. That, by the way, right there, is super important. I know it seems weird for me to say that because I'm a cishet white dude, but this line right here, she helped me see that a superhero could look like me. That right there is why representation is so goddamn important. If hypothetically speaking, I was a black trans woman. I'm not, but let's just go with this for a second. If I were a black trans woman, and I was introduced in comics to a black trans superhero, I have a role model, somebody to look up to. Fictional, sure, but do not let anybody tell you that fiction does not influence the world, because holy fuck does it ever. I mean, shit. Without fiction, people aren't able to spread ideas that seem impossible now that can then permutate across the real world. I mean, for goddamn sake, again, I'll be right back. We live in a world where we have in-pocket communicators. We have cell phones, smartphones, what have you. And these things were directly inspired by Star Trek. I'm not even kidding. The inventor of the cell phone was inspired by an episode of Star Trek. Captain Kirk was in trouble, and he used a communicator. And that inspired one of the most influential pieces of technology of the last 25 years if you want to count modern. But really, cell phones, in some form or another, have been around since the mid-'70s, so we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 years, almost 50 years, and this is one of the most influential pieces of technology, thanks to a work of fiction. Don't let anybody tell you that fiction doesn't influence the world, and do not let anybody tell you that representation doesn't matter, because it fucking does. Moving on to the rest of the introduction. As I was writing my own version, I realized that Cass also has trouble seeing herself as a hero. She just can't picture it. She thinks all she can be is a villain, a sidekick. She thinks she's disposable. I wanted to reach through the pages and tell her, you're not. You're everything. Or you are everything. I hope that as you read the adventures of our Cass, you feel that depth of love that we all have for her. Artist Nicole Goux, my partner in crime and in the creation of this Cass, brought her so beautifully and perfectly to life. This is another part of the aside. I just wanted to bring up from a little bit earlier on in the story, right at the beginning of part 2, Becoming. Look at this art style. Look at it! Some people might look at it and scoff, but this is actually a really endearing art style, and I kind of love it. It's one of with any comic thing, the art is important, and I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about it in my Court of Owls story, or at least I didn't give it the time that it deserved. And it's worth it. I mean, look at the very first shot of Batgirl, and tell me that looks like trash. It looks fucking awesome. Pardon my language, by the way. I do apologize. But, yeah, I fully agree with this bit about Nicole Goux here. Colorist Chris Peter made her world vibrant. Letters Janice Chiang and Seda Timofonte rendered her words with nuance. And the whole thing was brought together by editor Sarah Miller. An unstoppable combination of Batgirl and Jackie, our new Asian American auntie character we've added to the Cass mythos because I really wanted her to have an Asian lady mentor. And Jackie was freaking awesome in this story. I hope she becomes canon. I hope once they figure out what the fuck to do with Cass, that they give her Jackie and Babs and let her let Sarah Kuhn write Cassandra Cain in canon, damn it! That's your recipe for success, DC. Not booting Dan Didio. Get Sarah Kuhn to write Cassandra Cain in the main canon. That's all you need to do. If she can keep... I apologize for that, by the way. If she's allowed to keep writing good stuff like this, man, you got a loyal reader in me. Oh, and the last part of this here. And if I can just say one more thing to Cass, it's this. Thank you for showing me I can be a hero. I hope you know you're one too. This introduction not only summarizes the story up really nicely, it touches on some really important things, and if you take away nothing else from this story, take away the message from the introduction. But keep in mind that this is a story that I think every person who's a fan of DC Comics should read. This is probably the best introduction to Batgirl that anybody could ask for. Is it canon? No, but that doesn't really matter. Once you get this and start looking at her actual origin issues, you realize just how good of a character Cassandra Cain is. And hopefully one day she'll be allowed to come back and have her time in the spotlight in DC Comics. Before or after Poison Ivy, I don't care, but that's a topic for another time. I hope you enjoyed this video, me babbling for about 11 minutes on The Shadow of Batgirl, a book that I cannot recommend enough. There we go. Now, our next review is also going to be coming a little bit early because... Is it our next review? Yeah, our next review can come a little bit early because we'll have enough time to talk about it. Friday the 13th. Kind of an ominous date, I know, but I assure you it's not intentional because on that day, we're going to be talking about a story that I had mentioned in the reveal video for the Wraith series, and for the review of the Wraith review series. That is a hard thing to say. And that is TK Boomer's Planet Song. Don't forget to be awesome, folks, and I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, do the hand pose. Awesome.